All right, it's 9 o'clock. All right, so welcome to my live today. As I was just saying before, I want this to be like a little bit of a summary and reflection on where we've been so far. So it's been really cool to read everyone's thoughts on what they've gained so far. So it's really cool. That's like a for me to see whether I'm on the right track or not with what I want to give you as being part of this particular challenge. Okay, so I want to summarize the playing field, okay? Because building trust and confidence in your horse and solving those issues is not just one thing, okay? And I all got you to read my little book. I deliberately made it a little book because I wanted a book that people could read, like anyone. So some people get a bit daunted by long books. I wanted to make it a short book. I made it concise. And I wanted to give you the key ideas in that little book, okay? And then what I try to do is try to touch on it. But I want to give you like a bit of an overview because it's not just one thing. It's not just solving your horse from getting up or what to do if they get spooky or what to do if they get overwhelmed. Or what to do if you feel uncomfortable going on a trail ride. It's not just one thing. There's a lot of components to it. So... And, if, it would be, what I love doing is I like taking people and then I kind of put them through this process over a period of time when people work with me, is that you're changing them. And that's what's got to happen when there are confidence and trust issues. It's that you have to change them. You have to heal them. You got to teach them things. Okay, you got to do a whole lot of things. You got to influence to do a lot of things to make them have more fun with their horse. Okay, so let me give you an overview of how it all works and it all comes together. So in this live, I'm going to go a little deep, okay, into some deep stuff, okay, about what I'm trying to do and what needs to happen. Nichelle, sorry, I'm in a meeting up until 10:30, so I catch up the replay. No worries, my friend. I'll see you in the replay. Okay, so what I have done in this particular live is I've focused, number one, on you doing one thing, because in a week I'm not going to be able to do like a hell of a lot, okay? But I can start you on a journey. I can start you doing one step towards it. Right? And then I can give you all these other ideas so that you can kind of, you got a bit of a mud map about what you got to do, okay? Because it is a bit of a map, a bit of a plan. Okay, so I got you to start Pilates, and I encourage you to go for a walk, because when you ride horses, you're an equestrian athlete and you've got to see yourself that way, and you've got to look after your horse's comfort, okay, and how you sit on the horse. What kind of load you are for that horse to carry is really important. So you imagine you're about to go on a bit of a bushwalk and you have a choice. You can carry like this really well-designed, comfortable backpack, or you can have some bricks in a Woolies bag and you can slug them over your back. What would you prefer to carry? What would be the least stressful for you to actually carry? It would be the well-designed backpack. So we've all got to turn ourselves into a well-designed backpack for the horse, and the best that we can do. And so to do that, we need to have a level of fitness, and we need to have this core strength that helps us balance in the saddle. Now, so I put you onto Katrine's little Pilates. She is the best Pilates instructor that I've ever come across. She's riding focus. And what she does is she makes Pilates, it's not easy, don't get me wrong, but it's not like the crazy, I'm sure if you've ever had, when I've ever gone across to other Pilates kind of sessions with people, it's more like a combination of aerobics and torture. But Katrine's exercise are slow, they're targeted, and they work. And I hope if you've done them, like, it doesn't matter if you haven't done it every day, but I'm sure if you think back to that first session and how you felt a couple of days after and could feel your core, etc., they're doable. You don't actually need to do very long. And then I hope you're all kind of blown away by how you've gone, well, that wasn't as hard as when I started. Because when you do exercise and you do build strength, your body just adapts. It's always blows my mind. It really does blow my mind. Like, I'm just thinking now of when I started, doing her little online course that she put together, because it's not, she hasn't released it all that long ago. And I think back about how pained I was to do it. And now, like, I'm just clicking through the exercises to do harder and to do more and to do longer. And it's like, that was really, really fast. So I want you to be really impressed with yourself and your body by that. When you feed your body good stuff and you get it moving and you target strength, your body just goes, oh, okay, you want me to get fit and strong? Okay, I'll get fit and strong. All right. Now, I know we can all have injuries and not be well and have illnesses and stuff like that, and that can compromise. And don't think I'm totally understand that. But even just doing a little bit, your body does adjust, and it does improve. All right. So I want you to be really inspired by that. And if there's one thing that you can do for your horse, just doing that, just being a better load for them to carry. But I hope you're all feeling better. And I think it was actually Nichelle that talked about that she felt taller. You do. When I started Pilates about 4 years ago, and I actually grew 2.5 centimeters. That's insane. Okay, but that's how much my spine was compressed. That's 2.5 centimeters at my age, which was hilarious. I actually have an autoimmune disease, and I have to go off to the specialist. I got to see the specialist every 3 to 6 months to keep an eye on my immune system. And every time I go there, they weigh me and they measure my height. And when I'd actually grown from the Pilates, they got all worried that I might have had some growth hormone problem, but it was just the fact that I did Pilates. Okay, so please go on with that, and please see it as importance, because you're a better load for the horse to carry. So it's better for the horse, but it's also better for your balance in the saddle as well. Okay, and when your body feels more stable and stronger, it doesn't get triggered to feel unstable and vulnerable and then trigger all those confidence and fear issues. Okay, so that's the first thing, is about your fitness. Now, the next thing I want you to understand is that when you're building confidence, it's aspects of you and aspects of the horse. And you've got to build them together, because you play such an important role in how that horse feels, because you're getting it to do stuff, you're wanting it to do stuff that it's got to understand, and that's going to physically challenge it as well. And not only that, they're not like us, okay? And that's what you've got to understand. They're totally different. They're designed to work as a herd, as a meshed unit. Okay, and so when we take them out by themselves, that whole way that they interpret the world, assess the world, and emotionally regulate is broken, and we have to become that. So you got to help your horse. You got to be that person that really understands them, that teaches them, that trains them and maintains their fitness and strength, that maintains their health, and that grows their confidence. But when you work with them, you have to be, and I keep saying, you've got to be the filter to the changing environment for them, okay? Because they've got to look to you to see whether for what they do to each other. In a herd, they look to each other going, are we okay? Can we relax? And together they work that out, okay? So the horse has to learn, and you've got to teach them to look to you, because it's not natural. They don't do it instinctively. You are a human, they are a horse. They don't look to you to be a filter. You've got to show them that you can do that role and teach them to do it. And then they look to you and they go, are we okay? Am I okay? And you've got to be able to say it to them without words, because that's how we do it to each other. We'd say it to each other. You can't say it to a horse. It means nothing. You've got to be that inside, okay? You've got to show them the way that they understand. Okay, so that's what we have to do with the horse. Okay, now some horses are easier than others, and that's why a big chapter in the book that I did is saying, like, getting you to think about, is this the most appropriate horse for you? Because if you can't maintain the fitness of that horse, or the sensitivity kind of thing of that horse, or the athleticism of that horse, or the lack of experience of that horse, then that horse might not be appropriate for you to have fun. And so you got to make sure that your horse is matched with your circumstance. And the number one circumstance is time, because they need to keep their fitness. And I hope that's the next thing. So I got you to do Pilates, but the next thing I got you to do was I wanted you to try to do something with your horse every day. That consistency of going out there and doing something. And the things about, learning groundwork type things is that not only does it do good things for you, okay, and the horse, just say on a teaching and building confidence thing, but also having groundwork skills is very good on those days when lots of people said a common question was, what do I do when it's raining and I don't want to ride? And it's like, well, they're the days that you can choose to do groundwork. So groundwork's super because it can be something, well, you're still keeping your horse fit, you're still working on teaching them that you're a filter and how to emotionally regulate and all these type of things, but you're limiting the risk of what could happen in the weather, okay, by doing some groundwork. So, that's just one of the many benefits that I'm going to talk about groundwork, okay, is learning those skills to make sure that you're getting out there and you're working your horse as much as possible. But if you don't have a lot of time to work your horse, that's really going to compromise your horse and you, okay? So if you can't work your horse a lot, it's about being really realistic. So the two things you got to do, you got to be realistic about your amount of time, but then on the next thing, you can't procrastinate. You got to make time. And that's why I'm giving you these important things. You want to overcome your confidence and trust issues, and you want to help your horse. You have to work it, okay? You've got to keep it fit, keep its training current, because if that horse just sits in the paddock, it does absolutely nothing for its confidence, trust, or its anxiety. Every day that it sits in the paddock not doing anything, you are growing its anxiety and discomfort from being ridden. All right. So what you got to do is you got to make sure you set your horse up, because you might realistically only be able to get to the horse twice a week. In that case, a horse that's been there, done that, and had its training a little bit more generalized, okay, and is kind of more forgiving for things, it's already had a lot of training put into its emotional regulation and everything like that, that might be a better horse for you than just say the young, really well-bred warm blood, okay, that needs a lot of work. Okay, so I'm just going to go over to the comments now to see whether you guys have got any comments for that. Because I'm going to now, in a sec, I'm going to now focus on you and kind of the next step of things. Okay, so Zoe, I find it easier to do the fitness stuff for my horse than just for me. Yes, okay, it's got to be done for both of you, and it's really got to be top of the list, okay, because you just need it. You need it for that basic just stability, and you need it for overall comfort, and they're two things that are grossly going to impact how you both feel about being with each other. Okay, Zoe, having options of things you can do so that there's flexibility in the plan, so it's helpful for keeping feeling like the little things are adding up in a positive way. That's right. When it's raining and it's a bit nasty, and you can still go and do something with your horse and do some groundwork, and you can say, well, I worked on a lot of canter therapy today. It might have been rainy and windy and stuff like that, but, we did lots of canter therapy and fitness in that regards, or I worked on really beautiful upwards and downwards transition, which would have done lots of good things for their, hind end development and stuff like that. I really exercised doing lots of trot canter transitions or lots of downwards, or I got the horse really with me and working with me and being a filter in this crazy weather environment, that's what you can work on. So yeah, the more skilled you are, the more tools you've got in your toolbox. All right, so I'm going to just say a little bit more about horses and picking the right one for you. Now, the more time you have, the more skilled up you have, the more it matters less about the horse as a person, right? As a personality. So just say with me, I don't find any horse difficult. In fact, if I have to pick a horse that I want to train, it'll probably be the horse that you guys might avoid. Just say, because I know that horse that's very sensitive, a sensitive horse that might be very unforgiving, and very feel very a little bit out of sorts. I know that those horses are actually the easiest to train, and those horses, for me, okay, even though they can be difficult, but for my skill level, I find them easy to train. And they are very good, those horses, because they're a little bit worried about the world, a little bit more naturally worried about the world. They really suck onto you really well. So I can actually make those horses sometimes the most least affected by things, because those horses just desperately seek to know how to navigate their environment with great motivation. So you teach them something and they hang on to it. When I show them I'm the filter, and if they look to me they'll be all right, they grab hold of it. Okay, so it's sometimes it's a little bit counterintuitive about, you know, about how you can transform a horse and what they might start off with and what you have at the end. But the more skilled and the more you understand them and the more you practice, the least the horse and its qualities kind of impact you with it being able to form a relationship, if that makes sense. So if you don't have a lot of time or a lot of background or whatever, or a lot of motivation to learn about them, you're going to need you're going to narrow the pool of horses that you'll be able to have fun with. Okay, so that's why I encourage everyone to learn up, skill up, because it opens up this world. Okay, if you've been able to really work with a lot of different varieties of horses and form relationships with them. Okay, so now I'm going to turn my attention to you. So we did the Pilates. Okay, I got you out there. I got you to work with your horse. Then I got you to like kind of have a few epiphanies about stuff, because the problem is when you don't know something or you haven't experienced something, your mind can't see it. Okay. So you've actually got to learn things and experience for your mind to recognize it. And that's why learning is really important. And one thing people kept coming up with as a bit of an epiphany is learning that they had to change themselves and change their thinking, and making that connection between themselves and how that reflected on the horse. And that was really, really cool. Okay, so the thing I wanted you to grasp hold of was this understanding about the horse and understanding them as a species so that you can interpret them properly. And also a lot of the questions were all about what do I do when my horse does this terrible thing or this scary thing? What do I do that? How do I stop that? Or how do I diffuse it? Because you're very focused on the problem, when I just kept saying, and I don't care, I'll say it another billion times in my life, I don't care, because I was no different, right? I focused on those things too. However, it's all about prevention. Okay, you shouldn't be experiencing that stuff. You're experiencing that stuff because you got some gaps, and most people do. So don't think I'm saying that you're silly because you don't know this. You're normal because you don't know these things, because in our horse world and what you've gone to at Pony Club and and what you see there in the magazines is not necessarily opening up awareness, or there's a focus on this stuff at all on horses. But you've got to understand it to be able to read it, and then you've got to prevent those situations from happening. So when someone says, I'm long reining my young horse and they keep losing the plot, it's like when I go past this certain thing, it's just like, I wouldn't be doing that. It's big red flags. That doesn't happen to me because I don't let that happen. So there's the concept. So there's understanding horses. So you've got to understand them as a species, understand their differences, so that you can be able to identify things that are going to upset them before it happens, and have an awareness of how to approach them with things or what certain things mean. And something that's very vital that I want you to understand is the concept of the worry cup. Okay, and it's an analogy used or a metaphor used to get you to understand that horses they're coping with a lot, and if they're coping with lots of things, they'll boil over, okay, and they won't be able to cope at all with what you're doing. Now, yesterday or the day before, when I was driving to a property to work a horse, I had to drive through a big driveway, and I have to drive through it's actually a thoroughbred stud, okay, so I've got to drive through a driveway it's a horse paddock with all the young horses and mares and foals and everything like that. And it was raining, okay? It was raining, and it was a bit windy. And in one paddock there were all the horses, and there was lots of ducks and stuff walking around and flapping and taking off because of the rain. And on the other side of the fence there was all these sheep and alpacas and everything like that huddled up. and all the horses were completely and totally relaxed, just grazing. And I drove through them, and not one horse batted an eyelid of me driving through the middle of them. However, and then reading comments like, what do I do when the weather's really bad and I don't want to ride my horse because I feel uncomfortable about it? And then you think, okay, you feel uncomfortable riding a horse in the rain, but look at all these horses just in the rain with ducks and sheep and goats and you name it, like moving around and stuff, and me driving through them and they're not batting an eyelid. What's the difference? The horse is totally cool with cars. These horses are totally cool with cars and ducks and all these things. Yet, why do we get worried about it? Why do they get worried about it when we sit on their backs? Okay. And that's because we add worry to them, okay? They're all cool when they're in their herd, and nothing's happening. No one's sitting on their back or making them do what we want them to do, okay? So horses don't walk around in life being terrified of stuff. They don't. They're actually quite, when they're relaxed, they're relaxed. When they know they're okay, they know they're okay, right? They don't. When they're relaxed, they are truly relaxed. Horses are not creatures that run around on edge their whole life, or they're on edge waiting to die. They're not like that at all. But when we go put them in situations and we add a whole lot of pressure to them, we can boil them over and make them feel insecure and therefore potentially threatened by things. So that's why they do start getting worried about the weather and triggered by the weather and triggered by the sheep over the fence and triggered by the car going by and triggered by the duck flying out of the bushes and stuff like that when they're in the paddock. Okay, so you've got to understand the concept of the worry cup. Okay, I think it's one that I heard many years ago. It comes from a horseman called Harry Whitney in America. He's a horseman that I dearly love to meet, but I don't know if I'll ever get the chance. He's quite an old man now, and he's very picky about his clinics. He only ever does clinics with no more than 6 people, and you've got to spend quite a bit of time with him. I think they're quite long clinics. They're only in America. And he's quite an interesting character, but he describes the concept of the worry cup, okay? And it actually comes from human post-traumatic stress disorder kind of work, okay, which says that a person or a horse can only handle 1 cup of worry, okay? And those worries will compound. So another thing it is also called is trigger stacking, okay? Trigger stacking. A whole lot of things that the horse is having to cope with that is either setting its natural predispositions off or making it feel uncomfortable or giving it some kind of negative experience, when they can only cope with so much before it escalates their stress into a zone where they will perceive the world negatively, okay? Negatively and potentially threatening. So they get reactive. And a good example of this is that, and you might have all experienced, just say your horse can be a little bit spooky and looking in the arena. So you go to an arena and you hand walk your horse around the outside, and the horse just honks along, not looking at anything, completely relaxed. You get on its back and suddenly everything at the side of the arena freaks it out, okay? And you go, what is that? Why is that? You just walked past it before and you didn't give a damn. Or it might even be in their paddock where they graze. It might be a jump that in their paddock that they live with and stand next to and eat around. But as soon as you get on their back, it's potentially threatening. That's because what's happened is that its worry cup has got filled up, okay? And it's flipped it into a zone where it flips from seeing the world as being okay and relaxed and being able to assess stuff at their particular level into a zone where they feel very negative. So they start seeing everything negative, okay? It's like when you're having a fight with someone or an argument with someone, you can only hear the nastiness that they're saying and you perceive everything nasty, or the other person's perceiving everything you say is nasty. That's what's actually happening with the horse as it's taking in its environment. So what that means, people go, why do horses do that? And I say, well, they're actually not feeling cool about being ridden. Okay, and being ridden is stressing them to a point. And you got to remember, horses are stoic, so they hold it in. Okay, it's stressing them to a point that it's actually changed the way they're perceiving the world. And it's really got them to a level where one more little drip in the worry cup, whether it be a bird flying out of the tree or the shadow on the ground near the jump wing or whatever, has got it really, really worried. So you got to understand them, because the more you understand horses, the more you understand and be able to identify the worry cup, okay, and what can go in there. Because how you prevent problems is that you empty the worry cup out. And that's when I said, when we turn to the horse, okay, we can empty the worry cup out by just say, making sure the horse understands more about how to respond to our aids, and a big one is how they respond to the bit, okay? And just making them better with that, and making them understand that they're meant to follow it, not just have their face pulled on, because lots of horses just think that steering is having your face pulled on, and you go in the direction of where you've had your face pulled on, instead of them understanding that when they feel that pressure on the rein, they've got to follow it, and follow it with their body, okay? That doesn't matter. So when you actually teach a horse that, it's amazing how much worry comes out of the worry cup and how it changes them. So yeah, so you empty the worry cup. So you've got to know about that. You've got to know about the worry cup, what goes in it, being able to identify it and remove it, but also prevent stuff from going in there. Okay, so keeping your horse fit and gymnastically strong is respecting the worry cup, because if it gets unfit, okay, it's going to be uncomfortable and get tired and get muscle fatigue. So when you're doing Pilates and your glutes were really, really burning, that is exactly what happens to horses, although it also happens over their whole entire back, feels like that, okay? That's actually what's happening. So that pain you feel, that burning pain you feel, is what horses experience all the time with us riding them, if we don't get them strong and fit, okay? So by keeping them fit, you're eliminating that from the worry cup, all right? So I'm just going to there's been some comments. I'm just going to now go and have a read of them. Okay, so Zoe, I love the worry cup analogy. I have to take the rocks out of the bottom of mine. Yes, because we got one as well, and our worry cup's got a lot to do with our confidence, right? Rebecca, I understand the worry cup because I have one. I know when it's filling and when it overflows, yeah. And part of this whole thing is you got to manage yours and you got to manage the horse. So this horse riding business is quite complicated, but it can be done, and it can be done when you become conscious of it. Sam, I've worked out my triggers. They're confined spaces, yeah, like riding narrow tracks with bush or more so fences on either side, yeah. I like open spaces, being able to more, yeah. And I fill his worry cup, yeah. And that's what you do. You then fill it up with your anxieties by hanging on, Virginia, yes, met Harry Whitney. I did a few clinics in Lochinvar years ago. He was very good, if my memory serves me right. He used to be a rodeo clown for bull riding years ago. Yeah, he's a really interesting character. Deb, I have to leave early at work. We'll check in and listen to the rest later. No worries, Deb. See you later. Okay, so you've got to understand horses. All right, you've got to understand. So you've got to learn about them as creatures. And not only that, you got to learn about it, but you've got to learn about it practically, because just theoretically doesn't necessarily do it. You need to have an understanding. Now, the next thing, so you've got to improve your fitness and strength, okay? And just be impressed how good now, and I hope this week's given you some insight. I wanted you to get some insight into the discomfort you felt, because I want you to relate that to your horse and see that pain you felt is what they feel, okay, and what we've got to prevent in them by keeping them fit. So I wanted you to get that in your mind, that experience, so that you can be more motivated to find that time to work with your horse. And when you got that avoidance that it's a little bit wet, that you go out and do something with your horse regardless, because you're respecting this thing that they'll go through if you give them time off. But then inspiring you that you've got to understand. You've got to understand them and see them to understand this worry cup, to be able to prevent stuff from happening. Let me just combine those two things with a really common mistake people make, and hopefully this story, this kind of insight I'm going to give you will make sense after I've talked about those things of understanding and fitness and strength. People go and send their horse off to get started, right? Young horses off to get started. And when the young horse gets started, it's like a physical ordeal for that horse, okay, for what it goes through. But just like we've been doing Pilates for a week and they get started, the trainers hopefully let's assume they're doing a good job, put a lot of gymnastic work. It's like that horse goes off to a physical and mental boot camp, an emotional boot camp, where they get very fit, they get introduced to stuff, they get introduced to being ridden, and they get really fit okay, to carry. But it's quite an ordeal for them as they go through it. So when you're starting horses, they will get, they'll get some muscle pain. It's no different than when, and you can't be afraid of that, because that's just part of the course. They do it. If you go to the gym and start a gym program, you get sore too, because you're using muscles that you haven't used. So young horses do get sore. So that's why it's very important when you are starting them that I always start with a lot of groundwork and a lot of preparation, and I do it very, very slowly for that reason, to minimize the discomfort they go through. But they will go through some, making sure that there's body work included in it and stuff like that. But they do get a bit sore, But by the time after they're under the saddle and they're getting, they're overcoming their because horses are very freaked out by balance, right? They are very freaked out by feeling unbalanced, by having someone on their back that interferes with their balance. And then worse, when the person on their back interferes with their balance and then jams their head. Okay, so that really upsets horses. So that's why I do lots of long rein work and just let the horse put the head where they bloody well want it, because it just allows the horse to be in control of their balance, get confident with me on their back before I go picking them up. Okay, so I do that specifically for their mind to not get overwhelmed. Okay, so they go to the trainers. The person who owns them will go and ride them, and they'll be very impressed. The trainer will tell them they've got a lovely horse here. That's a really lovely horse. He's come on really well, and the person will be really, really pleased. They got their horses super and they're very happy, and they ride it there a few times and they're very pleased with it. Okay, they then take it home and they feel all a bit uncomfortable about riding it, so they decide they'll give it a spell, because it's been quite an ordeal going to the breakers, quite an ordeal. So they'll give it a spell, and then they'll put it off a bit longer because they feel a little uncomfortable about getting on the horse because it's new and they're not sure and they're a little unsure. So they give it a bit more of a spell because it needed a good one after all that physical work. Well, anyway, then they'll pull it out of the paddock one day and they'll get on it, and the horse hasn't been ridden for weeks and weeks and weeks. So all that education that it's had has shrunk and diminished, okay? Because if you don't use it, you lose it. So the horse might have started off coming back from the trainers with 100% foundation on it. By the time you've put it in the back, that's degraded to about 40%. And then not only that's lost all its strength and its muscles, right? So you go put a saddle on and start riding it, and it goes kind of okay, probably not as good, right? And then the next day the horse is sore as hell, right? Or you might leave it again. But can you see what happens? The horse's education deteriorates and strength deteriorates. So when you get on and ride it, it actually finds it uncomfortable on multiple levels. So then what happens? The horse starts developing anxiety, okay? Starts becoming anxious. The person then starts getting worried about it, starts riding it less, and they start labeling it, as the horse has a problem, it's difficult, it's anxious, it's not the right horse for me. But all that's happened is that the foundation of education and fitness was not maintained. That's what's happened to that particular horse. So I hope that insight gives you a bit of an idea about how that's what happens with young horses, of people not understanding the Worry Cup. Okay, they allowed all the strength and fitness and the education to deteriorate. So when they came back to it, and they actually came back and they created a Worry Cup full of stuff for that horse. So I hope that gives you a bit of insight and story behind that. Okay, so the next thing that you need to do is to understand that you need to change physically. Okay, so you emotionally affect the horse, and you emotionally affect them from your emotions and from your movements. All right, so I got you today in today's activity, I've got you to film yourself doing something that you consider simple and easy to do with your horse. Okay, something really simple and easy. Okay, and then if you're brave, post it up. And if not, I just want you to look at it, and I want you to look to see how harmonious does it really look, what you're doing with that horse? How much harm, or is there chaos between you? Is there resistance? What is there? Okay, because I deliberately, when I have my programs that I've developed with my courses, and my writing foundation course is about to come out, but what I do is I start people off, and you ask me what I think you should do. You should learn about this. That's why I've got my first course in my list is things to know about horses. So is that knowledge about horses. And it then flows into, then I get people to do round penning, so controlling a horse with nothing, and then groundwork, and then the ridden work. Okay, so you progress through this as I'm building you. And I'm actually building you no different than I would if you wanted to become a martial artist. Okay, that's how I'm doing it. Because what you'll see between people, you can see the lack of harmony, or when you get flustered and and the horse resists and it's all messy and you feel frustrated. That frustration is a lack of connection between you and the horse. Okay, a lack of connection. But the connection actually starts with a lack of connection within you. And having fear and nerves can actually disrupt that even more, okay? Because what happens when you're nervous is it disconnects your mind from your body even more, because your mind's saying, get out, move away, danger, danger, danger. So it's deliberately making you feel uncomfortable and wanting and putting bad thoughts in your head to move you away, because it's identified that horses are dangerous. The problem is that you love horses, and it's actually what you want to do. That's your conscious self, but your subconscious self is telling you to get the hell out of town. Okay? So now, so you get this disconnect between your movement, the awareness of yourself, and your mind, okay? Because your mind's been hijacked by fear. So what I have to do is you've got to be reconnected within yourself. You've got to reconnect your being. You've got to get this awareness about yourself. So what you might see in your video, and I see when people send me videos and we do online stuff or we post stuff, and I absolutely love it. I love comparing the first videos they sent me with ones a little bit down the track. And I always tell people, I love how they get quieter. Okay, because to start with, they're all like fussing with that, and they don't know where to stand, and their horse is walking on top of them, and they're pushing them away, and they're trying to do, and you can see their mind ticking, and their body's doing something else. Okay, to the horse, that is chaos. To the horse, that is, they can tell when your mind and body are not one. So if your body says something and your mind saying something else, the horse doesn't trust you, because the horse actually reads the alignment between your mind and your intent and what's coming out your body. Okay, so if your body's saying one thing but your mind's saying else, they don't trust you. But not only that, you're also reading the environment for them and telling them that it's chaos. So you got to align, and you got to be connected within yourself. So what I see, and what you might see with yourself, is you'll look at yourself and you go, oh, God, it's just so messy. There's no harmony there. It just doesn't flow. Ask my horse to go backwards and nothing happens. Or, it's, yes, I'm backing it up, but I'm having to really push it, and it's not going forward, and it's not flowing back beautifully and softly. There has to be this bit of a wrestle with it, and I'm looking messy and stuff like that. That's because there's a disconnection between your mind and your body. And you just got to align it. And the best way to do that, the best way for people to do that is to start with groundwork. That's why I encourage people to, there's many reasons I get people to do groundwork. It's very, very good and important for the horse, but it's very good and important for you as well, because of this effect that it has. And it is the same benefit that it has with that if you do martial arts, or if you do dancing, right? Or anything that aligns you physically and mentally. Because it has the same effect as just what happens, right? When your mind becomes completely connected to your body and in control of the movement, okay? Like a really good martial artist or a really beautiful dancer, right? What that does is it teaches your mind to focus. All right, so your awareness of your body, your proprioception and your interception become one. Okay, and it becomes, you control those particular senses of you. So what happens, it controls your thought. And once your thoughts controlled, your thoughts in your head become focused on what you're doing instead of the what ifs. The horse sees this. They can read you way easier. you're very clear to them, and not only that, they trust you because the chaos inside you becomes ordered, right? Then they can read you. Now, there's lots of layers of connection with a horse that I'm going to talk about. So actually, I just might go to comments just to see what you guys have been saying. So Sam, that makes so much sense. That's really cool. No worries. Judy, I've been focusing on building and maintaining Parlay's strength and fitness during a rehabilitation. Yeah, and that's really, really cool because she needed that good. But now I need to work on mine. I stopped going to the gym due to COVID. So pleased to be introduced to Pilates. Yeah, and those ones you can just do at home. And Katrina's going to add to them and add to them. The Pilates, all as I do, right, is Pilates and walking. And, you know, if you want to do its weights, for us, you don't, you know, it's the walking, which is the great for fitness, and the weights, just, you know, you can do some little weights, but the Pilates is just, it's just such a good, you can fit it in whenever you want to do it, you know. And Katrina's going to put more up in the back exercises. She's got one with a band, okay, with one of those exercise bands that she included, so you can work on your arms and things like that as well. So it just expands, and you can just do them wherever. Okay, it is really cool. Zoe, I notice if I'm worried, my movements become rushed and sharp. Yes, strangely, that's like the horse, isn't it? They become rushed and sharp and tense and reactive. Exactly. When I'm less worried and much more in the moment, I'm much smoother and more consistent and in order with cues. Yeah, because we need, and this is the feedback I give people all the time. It's like, you've got to flow more. It's got to be smoother. It's got to be quieter. Because when you're like that, you know, when you're all in chaos, when there's a lack of connection, there's 6,000 thoughts in your head and you don't know what you're doing. And people don't know what they're doing with their hands. And I'll see it all the time when I'm coaching. Just say they'll be riding and they'll just keep pulling on their left hand like this. They don't even know they're doing it. And I go, do you know you're pulling on the right rein? No. Left rein? No. Or when they're on the ground with their horse will be just standing there and they'll be chatting away to me, telling me something about them or whatever. And they're just pulling on the horse all the time, pulling, pushing, and the horse hasn't really even moved. But they just got such a habit of pushing the horse out of their space that they're completely unaware that they're doing it. But the horse isn't. The horse is completely aware you're doing that. So what horses do when you're chaos, they get, first of all, they don't trust you because you make no sense. They get frustrated with you and they get anxious being with you, no different than if you were with a person that was just all over the shop. Okay, there was all over the shop that spoke gobbledygook, that changed its track 16 times and was and then that acted like it was really freaked out all the time. That would not be a relaxing person for you to be around, and that's what happens to the horse. But you meet someone that's very centered, okay, that's very calm and confident, they're a great person to be with. Who would you rather be walking down, like, you know, a bit of a dark street at night with? Would you rather be walking with the person that was just really, you know, calm and confident and had good presence about them? Or would you want to be with the person that was like, you know, all over the shop and freaking out and jumping at things themselves? You know, who would you rather be with? You know, what person's going to make you feel calm, you know, or secure, or have a sense of confidence that you're okay? You got to become that person. And the thing is, you can. You absolutely can. You can. And you're just stuck in what's happened is that the world and stuff that you've been in has not introduced you to these ideas yet. And I hope I'm the person that does, or maybe you have and I'm reinforcing them. Okay, that there is this hope out there, and it's just requires some education, some practice, some more finding out, some giving it a go, and things like that. Because let me tell you about connection. You see, connection's talked a lot about out there in the world, right? Got to build this connection, and what keeps you really safe and having a tremendous time with a horse and keeps horses nice and relaxed is a really good connection. But then people talk about it all the time. It's a word that's just thrown around, but it's a word that actually has, I think, many different meanings to people, because some people get out there and their horse is laying on the ground and the horse will let them sit down with it and maybe sit next to them or lay on them or whatever, and people will think, oh, I have such a connection with the horse. You know, they'll see that as a connection, you know, because that's where they're at. I don't see that as connection. That's the horse just tolerating you. At worst, it's the horse just tolerating you. And at best, the horse thinks that you're no threat, so you can hang with it and it's not worried. But that's not connection. That's not what you need to walk down that dark alley at night with a horse. That doesn't mean they'll do that with you. That's not connection. Okay? Then I found out what connection was. I thought connection was when a horse was really obedient to me. Right? And I just had to point my hand or look in a certain way and they'd go and do what I wanted, or I just had to breathe out and they'd stop. I thought that was connection, right? That's not. That's just obedience. That's just obedience and being very good and clear with aids, okay? With your aids and being consistent with consequences and stuff like that. That's all that was. So that was just obedience. So one is just the horse tolerating you or just being habituated to you. The next one is just obedience. But then I'll tell you what happened to me a number of years ago, right? And it required me, my mind and my body and my thoughts to be so quiet, okay, that I was able to sense it. So probably about 4 to 5 years ago now, I was working with a young horse in the round. Someone had brought it to me. It was a young horse, and they wanted to learn how to work it and to do a lot of work for starting. And it was only young. It was only about 2.5 years old, and I was working it. And then all of a sudden, okay, I felt this thing hit me in the chest. Right, this feeling hit me in the chest, and I knew. I knew that horse was inside me, and it was inside me, and it was inside my heart. And I didn't have to do much at all then for it to communicate with it. It's like it had handed itself over to me. It was like I had an avatar. You know the movie Avatar, where the creatures that they ride do this when they meld and they become one? I felt that horse hit me in the heart, and it was there. And I knew that horse was right there. It had connected itself to me in a way that I didn't understand life, right? It was like this. There was like that moment when I knew that was that horse that had connected into my heart somehow, some way, through some form of energy or whatever, some form of life force, and it was there, right? And I could feel it. And I knew then for every moment I just had to think, and that horse, I had to think, and I knew that it could hear my thoughts. It could have it. It was registering with it. And it was incredibly easy to work, right? That particular horse. It was quite a moment. And then every other horse I worked from then, I started realizing that I could feel varying degrees. And I worked out the younger and the more unaffected by, the more younger the horse and the less kind of disturbed it was, or the older the horse and the less that it had, the younger the horse, the greater the feeling. And the quicker they were to do it. The older the horse, the more complicated, the more troubled the horse, the longer it took me to get that feeling, but I could feel it. Okay? Then I worked out that I didn't have to wait for them to do that. I could do it to them. Okay, so when I work a horse, that's what I say, you got to believe you got magic and you can get in their heads. And so it was just like, there's something about life I don't understand. All right, there's more to life, you know, and I'm not a woo-woo person. I don't consider that's woo-woo, what I'm talking about. It's like I could feel it, but I could only feel it because I got quite enough inside myself to feel it. So focused on what I was doing, focused on what I was doing, in control and quiet within my mind, that I could sense it. Because I'm pretty sure this thing had probably happened to me many times, but I was not aware. I couldn't feel it. But I was so quiet inside myself with my thoughts and everything, so focused. So with meditation, you don't have to, meditation and controlling your thoughts doesn't have to be by sitting down and saying, and going through that practice. What I'd done by years of working horses and controlling my thoughts and being in control of my body and that self-awareness and focusing my thoughts and being focused on what I was doing, I was effectively reducing the white noise in my head that I could feel this type of thing. So to me, right here, right now, when they talk about connection with a horse and all that old cowboy wisdom that talks about connection, that's what connection is for me. That's because I know it's deeper than just them being obedient. It's deeper than them just being with you. They connect on you on this weird ass level, and it goes inside you and it goes right in your heart. It's really strange. And you can do the same back to them. But I was only able to discover that. You cannot do that. People might try to sell you that you can do it just by matching their goddamn steps or something. You can't. I know why I got there. It's because I got there through this process of refining and being very in control of my body, because it's what they talk about in martial arts. It's what they talk about is there's this mind-body connection that happens, and that's where they talk about mind, body, spirit. It goes to that level to actually find that. So I hope that's kind of like not a weird story. It's made you go, oh my God, she's a bit of a Fruit Loop now, this lady. I thought she sounded really good, now she's definitely a Fruit Loop. I'm not, but that's I said, that's the experience that I had. That's when I worked out. That's one of those moments when you work out there's more to life and what it is and what that means, when you can feel a horse do that to you, and that then you learn you can actually do it back. But as I said, you need, and how I got there was not because I sat around with the horse doing nothing. I it's like and wanting it, I never went out and seeked it. It was something that I discovered and I could feel by accident, and I could only do it because of the place of control that I had with my body and my mind, that I was able to actually truly experience that. And I believe anyone can, okay? But you've got to go on this journey of fitness, of understanding, of strength, of body control, okay? You've got to quieten yourself down. First of all, to quieten yourself down and hone your skills so the horse gets very good at being able to read you, okay? Because the horses will only give themselves to me, okay, when I am doing the best goddamn communication and consequences and stuff, and being consistent within myself, and the clarity of and the simpleness of my thoughts and my beliefs to do that. Only then do they hand that over. There's no chance in hell of getting it without this centeredness, without this groundedness within you. Okay, so you can do that. So that's why I have my round penning course. Okay, and then I put on the groundwork. Round penning is a very powerful thing to do with. It's where your coordination, your connection between mind and body gets a massive reboot. Because when you got to control a horse with nothing except your presence, your energy, and your movement, you can do nothing else. It makes you control your mind, to control your body, and to be aware of them. All right, so that's how it all starts. Doing very simple movements, very simple, consistent things, and the horse tells you. They let you know whether you're doing good enough or not by actually taking notice of you. And people always get really blown away when they start doing. So part of the round penning course is learning to raise your energy inside yourself up into a canter transition, and then make it smaller and get them to do a downward transition. And that always blows people away when they discover they got this energy in them that they can throw out and draw back. Because all of you here, when you realize you make horses nervous because you got this nervous energy about you, and you realize that's impacting the horse, there's this really important thing I want to tell you, is that, or at the moment you might see it as a disadvantage of having that, but having that ability to create that energy in you is actually a massive asset. You just got to learn to turn that energy around into a communication tool that you can dial up and dial down, and that you can affect the horse with it. And round penning helps with that, okay? It helps you discover your energy inside you and get you to exercise blowing it up and shrinking it back, and blowing it up and bringing it back, okay? And how you can actually see the horse will read that, okay, and become obedient to it at first, okay, before you go on the rest of the journey. And then you can actually feel them. They're actually feeling you tapping into it. They actually even go deeper than just feeling your energy. As I said, that's what happens with me now. And then when you go on to groundwork, and you've got the horse on the end of a lead rope. So now it's your body, what your body does, and your coordination with the rope that's connected to their face. That's the next bit of coordination and connection you have to make. And then just doing those things completely transforms people and gives them such an awareness into timing and feel and the connection within themselves, but that by the time they go sit on their horse's back, they're a different creature. And they form this different relationship with the horse. So, and then we go into the foundation riding, which most of the good things you needed to develop were developed on the ground within you. So sitting on their back is not this massive ordeal, okay? It's completely game changing. So that's why I do that, okay? Is is taking through groundwork. Yes, it has this massive impact on the horse. The horse is actually the easy bit in the equation, but it does amazing things for your mind-body connection, focusing your thoughts and allowing this openness and this groundedness to start developing within you. Okay, so I'm just going to go now. Hope that hasn't blown your mind and you'll think I'm a fruitcake, okay? Because I said I'm going to go deep in this. I'm going to reveal some deep stuff to you of why I do things. My why is deep, okay? My why is that I've got to teach you a lot of things, get you fit, teach you skills, but then I've got to get you to make this profound change within yourself of when you're working with a horse. So I'm just going to turn my attention because there's some comments. Okay. All right, Beck. No, you're definitely the person changing things for me. Well, that's good. Even you discover there's this, there's deepness to it, and then it's a little bit of fluffiness. Well, I don't think it's fluffiness. I can feel it. Okay, Zoe, it's amazing how your understanding of something becomes more nuanced the more you know. Absolutely. It's when you got to reduce the white noise. You got to shut out all the things that trigger. You got to no longer. You can't have your mind hijacking you with fears and stuff like that. You've got to get them all under control. It becomes very quiet, and then you get to pick up these special things. Yeah. Zoe, and now I'm going to actually do my mindfulness practice and get skilled at that, just in case Bridget has been waiting for me to figure my stuff out. She has been waiting, Zoe. They're all waiting because you see, horses do it very naturally. We've lost the ability a bit to connect to the earth and things around us. All right. We know that going back in history of humans, that humans when they're, I know people know it, or they know a sense of this already, because I do this thing. Normally most of my clients are women, right? Women come to me and they drag along their husbands for the day, and the husband, bless the poor husband's been dragged along to another horse event. And they'll be sitting there and I'll be doing like an initial kind of behavioral assessment of someone's horse, working it out whether, what if there's something wrong with it, is it just, confused or whatever. Anyway, I just start asking the people questions, but I also start asking the husbands questions, right? They're not interested in horses at all. But I'll say, right, I'll start getting them to observe the horse, and I'll say, right, okay, how do you think this horse is feeling at the moment? What emotion has it got? And I'm telling you right now that I have never had a husband, okay, that's completely and utterly disinterested, not be able to look at that horse and nail that horse's emotion like that. Okay. The other thing I say is like, where are this horse's thoughts? Husband, brilliant, bang, nail it right away. We actually have a complete and absolute intuition. Like there is that life, there is a connection, and humans, because we got kind of civilized and live together and help each other, we've kind of lost that connection a little bit with the earth, but we actually do have a tremendous ability to read animals. Okay. You just got to reboot it in people. So yes, so horses haven't, right? They've still got the ability, so they will still connect and things like that. We've kind of lost it a little bit, so we need to learn it back. Okay, Virginia, all sounds wonderful to me. Understand the mind, body, soul thing. The trick is doing it, absolutely, and understanding that it's a journey and doesn't, and it doesn't take 5 seconds to do. It's something you've got to go on, the fitness journey, the understanding journey, the practice journey of making horses move. You cannot get this connection standing still with a horse. You cannot. All right? You have to move each other, because harmony has a role there. It starts with movement and that whole thing. First you got to go with the horse, then they got to go with you, then they go together. It's not involved standing still, doing nothing while it lays on the ground in the arena, okay, having a role. That's not where it is. That's just a tiny little snapshot of something else, okay? There's more to it, and it involves going on a journey. It's like if you remember the Karate Kid movie, Mr. Miyagi got the Karate Kid to do all these things they didn't understand. Why he was doing that, he was connecting his body together in precise movement, okay? To be able to grow those circuits in the brain, narrow those thoughts so the magic could happen. It didn't happen just by standing around talking it. You're not going to learn how to connect a horse just by learning with me now. You learn to connect with them by doing a hell of a lot of stuff with them. Okay. Judy, speaking my language, Shelley, totally understand your explanation of connection and the role responsibility we have to work on ourselves firstly. Yeah. For me, anxiety and to quiet my mind. Yep, that's what it's all about. But it can be done, and just say what you've done this week is connect your core strength, and look at how good that's got. Okay, everything can be connected. Sam, I started practicing mindfulness twice a day. I'm blown away by the impact it's having on my everyday life. I also will be doing the round penning course. Yeah, round penning, I really recommend people do that for the experience of learning how to control with nothing. It's not necessarily the liberty work that you see out there. It's very basic and very simple, but that's where it starts. Okay, that's where it starts. And learning you got energy, and learning about positions, and learning about drive lines on horses and flight zones, and all these things that you can touch on and impact. That's pretty cool. All right, so going on. Okay, so I've told you all this wonderful stuff that can happen, right? And the important thing is, though, it requires a lot of action and a lot of you to do a lot of practical things. It cannot be sourced from your comfort zone. Okay, it cannot be sourced there. You've got to bust the comfort zone. You've got to push on it. You've got to, nothing good in life is ever achieved by being easy. There is struggle involved. Okay, the amount of horses that I've worked and that have made me frustrated and that have made me chip away, and they can't, every horse comes to you to teach you something. Okay, I believe that there's, like, I like to see it like this: horses present you with lessons in life. Okay, and if you get a tricky one, what I showed most people is tricky horses that don't let you do what you've always done. They are actually gifts to you from the horse gods. Okay, the horse gods have said, you know what, you got more to learn. Okay, this horse will teach you a lesson. You get this horse feeling good and working with you, you're going to be changed in an amazing way. So along my life, I've always met those horses, because along my life earlier on, I kept thinking I knew everything. Oh, I knew that a little bit more. I'm even better now. Now I seriously know everything. And then I'd meet a horse that just told me that I had a hell of a lot more to learn. And you get to this point in your journey where you go, you know what? I don't know everything. I am definitely not going to say I know everything, but I enjoy what I'm learning. And it's like, bring on the lessons. Okay. You mean this stuff's deeper? Like when that horse hit me in the heart, and it was just like, what the hell was that? Okay, because you could full on feel it. Okay, and it's like, what is that? And knowing that was that horse, right? That was like, what the hell is that? And this is a part of life I've got no idea about, but I'm not, it's like, fair enough, I've got more to learn. Okay, so you get used to just being able to sit back and learn. The less you know, the more you think you know, right? All right, so the next thing you got to do, right, and that's all lovely to know about that. That's kind of lots of really good stuff down the road in the journey. But there's things that you got to do now for confidence and trust. And that is, you got to know those barriers inside you and work on overcoming them. And how you overcome them is you get conscious of them. The next thing you got to be is, when you're conscious of all this stuff you're doing, start being strategic. Okay, about what you're doing. The concept of the marble jar is very important for you and the horse. Build your confidence with that horse in your comfort zone, and build it up a lot so there's lots of marbles in that jar before you go and push it. Be smart, protective of your confidence, and step it up only when you're ready. All right, so I hope that gives you some insights. Just going to read the last couple of comments. Samantha, my horse is definitely a gift from the horse gods. Yeah, they are. And and what happens if the horse gods send you a horse and you reject it, right? The horse gods will send you another one with the same message. They'll keep sending it to you until you get the message, right? Or you leave the horse gods and you leave horses, and then I think life then goes and presents it to you in other ways anyway, most likely. Zoe, Bridget is my gift horse. Every time I think I've learned something, she makes it step up again. Yep, that's what horses do. They make you. They are special, and brilliant because they make you step up. They make you, they're not easy. They don't give it to you on a platter. They make you work for it, but it's very good in the journey they take. Okay, guys, so I hope that gave you a little bit of an open view of the game plan that we've got to have for building confidence and all those things. There is a practical thing that you can do and practice with this awareness that you're on the right track doing it. You can be strategic and smart, okay, about it and build it along the way and get the enjoyment back in your horse. All right, guys, so I'll leave it there and we'll wrap it up. So 1 day left of the challenge, and I really hope you're getting something from it.